If you have not heard now, Donald Trump has been arrested. He did turn himself in Fulton County in Georgia. There are mixed responses about this. Donald Trump has also issued a very quick response as well as to how he feels about this. And what I thought was very interesting is that people are not really responding the way that you may think. Mainstream media is showing you people cheering and happy that he turned himself in. But there's another side that I'm going to show you tonight that mainstream media is not going to show you. But first and foremost, let's get started with that story about Donald Trump coming right out of Democracy Now! Let's go ahead and get into it. Here we go. There's that face.
Had his mugshot taken. He was released after about 20 minutes on a $200,000 bond. Since March, the former president has been indicted 4 times and faces a total of 91 criminal charges. On Thursday, Trump became the first former president to have his mugshot taken. Soon after the photo was released, Trump began using the photo to raise money for his presidential campaign. He also...
So when I saw this, the first thing I thought was, you know what? That's crazy. But at the same time, that's actually smart. You see, Donald Trump, you see how he's this type of person where he can take something that's bad and try to turn it into a positive for the campaign? Think about this, guys. This is part of the problem with the way that they chose to indict Donald Trump. Now, again, this is not to say that Donald Trump is innocent. This is not to say that he should not be held accountable. The problem is the way that they went about doing it and the timing of it. I'll get into that a little bit more later on, but I'm going to tell you the way that I think it should have been done. But the way that they have gone about these indictments, the multiple indictments, I don't think it was the right way. And they've actually painted Trump as a martyr and not so much as a perpetrator. Let's continue.
So posted the mugshot on the social media platform X. It was his first post on the site since he was banned by Twitter after the January 6th insurrection in 2021. Donald Trump briefly spoke to reporters at the airport Thursday after he was released.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. I've never had such support. And that goes with the other ones, too. What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country.
Trump's former White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, also surrendered Thursday and was released on a $100,000 bond. A hearing will be held on Monday regarding Meadows' request to move his trial to a federal court. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has subpoenaed Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and one of his former staffers to testify at a hearing over the request by Meadows. On Thursday, Willis also called to move the start of Trump's trial to October 23rd after one of Trump's other 18 co-defendants, Kenneth Chesebro, demanded a speedy trial. He's the lawyer who proposed Trump use fake electors to try to overturn the election. A judge has set his trial to begin on that same day, October 23rd. We go now to Atlanta, where we're joined by 2 guests. Hugo Lowell, a reporter for The Guardian, who's closely covered Donald Trump's indictment in Georgia. And Carol Anderson is professor of African-American Studies at Emory University, the author of many books, including One Person, No Vote, How Voter Suppression is Destroying Our Democracy.
Okay, let me chime in here for just a second, because I want you to think about the people that they chose to bring on in reference to this conversation. But at the same time, I want you to think about something that Trump said in his response to the media. The timing of this has done nothing but increase Trump's support and has made people feel sorry for Donald Trump, which is not what should happen. Now, how would I have gone about doing this? If you're going to indict Donald Trump, you have to remember Joe Biden took office in 2021, January 2021. They've had plenty of time to indict Donald Trump. Why did they wait to indict him after he announced he was running for president again? That's problem number one. Problem number two, there have been multiple indictments, again, after he announced he was running for president again. They would have had a better public response, I think, if they would have found one of those indictments that they knew for sure would absolutely stick, and they would have indicted him before he announced he was running for president. I think the response from the public would be a little bit different. But the way that they went about doing it, waiting until after he announced, boom, you're indicted. Here's the first one. There have been 4 indictments now. And then there's the multiple indictments that go along with it. So now it looks like, to a lot of people, and I'm going to show you some of them you might be surprised by. Now it looks like to some American people that they're basically trying to railroad Donald Trump. They're trying to find something that will stick to prevent him from continuing his campaign. And that is why I disagreed with the way that they did it. Do I think that people should be held accountable? Absolutely. I don't support Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I never would vote for Donald Trump. But the timing of it and the way that they did it is very suspect. So you know that it is politically motivated. And that's the problem that a lot of people have with it. And that's why every time he's indicted, he continues to increase in the polls. Let's go back in.
Her other books include the second, Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America, and White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide. Professor Anderson, let's begin with you. Your reaction to the booking, this historic moment of the former president of the United States, the first time ever, and it happened in your state, in Georgia.
It felt, given the kinds of pressure that Trump put on Atlanta and put on Georgia, and the targeting of Fulton County as somehow this bastion of corruption, this felt like vindication. It felt like justice. It felt Nina Simone good.
But why wasn't that justice carried out before he announced that he was running for president again? That's my question. They had plenty of time.
This is coming on the eve of the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. In 1963, so many marched for voting rights, for civil rights. Talk about why you see this as a civil rights story.
Oh, it was the attack on voting rights, because in Fulton County, well, in Georgia writ large, 90% of African Americans who voted for Biden. Over almost 70% of Latinos who voted in Georgia voted for Biden. And a little over 60% or so of Asian Americans who voted for Biden. What you saw with Trump's team, their attempt to wipe out those votes, it was the attempt to say that their votes were illegitimate. The votes of minorities were illegitimate, like they weren't real Americans. It was the same kind of assault that we saw in the Jim Crow era, that those weren't real Americans and their votes didn't count. It was as if the march on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and Bloody Sunday was irrelevant. And so it was seeing this kind of systemic and corrosive assault on the right to vote and to have your votes counted. And the way that African Americans were denigrated in that assault as illegitimate, as the source of criminality, as the source of fraud, massive rampant voter fraud, where you could have a Rudy Giuliani talking about Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss as drug dealers. Passing out ballots as if they're passing out heroin and cocaine. That kind of assault on Black humanity was the same kind of assault that led to the Voting Rights Act.
So when we talk about the assault on Black humanity, I guess that doesn't count for people like Joe Biden, right? You see why you can look at something like this and just say this is clown shit? And I say it because of this reason. We want to talk about the assault on humanity of Black Americans. Let's talk about Joe Biden's crime bills. Why would you still go out and support him after what he's done to the Black community? And he did these things by legislation, which is actually worse. Let's talk about that assault on the humanity of the Black community. It just, you see why this is why, hold on. This is why I get so frustrated with we are going to vote for the Democratic Party because they're so much better for the Black community people. This is what aggravates me about that. Because the things that, if you can say those things about Donald Trump, that you feel he targeted Black people and said their votes weren't legitimate, et cetera, then you can also in that same breath say some things about Joe Biden, about he targeted the Black community when it came to legislation. But because Joe Biden is a Democrat and you have been told to fear the Republican Party, you're going to go along with Jim Crow Joe anyway, because you have been tricked into believing that either one of these parties is going to be the best for your community. And the reality is, when you look at it, both parties have screwed over the Black community. But what kills me, and she's a professor, and yeah, she's an author, but what kills me is with like outlets like Democracy Now!, they'll bring on these professors, particularly in this situation. Let me bring on a Black professor who lives there, who teaches there, and let me get them to give these liberal talking points to give the Democratic Party more cred. But when the Democratic Party is doing these same types of policies against Black people, you want to talk about voter suppression? Let's talk about the fact how the Democratic Party has also redrawn districts to push out politicians that they didn't feel would play their game. Let's talk about how the Democratic Party did that in reference to Dennis Kucinich. So, I mean, both parties do it if you want to talk about voter suppression. And what kills me is someone like Karen, someone like Carol, who is a professor, very intelligent, living right there in Georgia. What drives me crazy is that she is willing to ignore that the Democratic Party also has been guilty of voter suppression. You can't make these things up, people. You really can't. Let's continue.
Hugo Lowell, you've been reporting on this for some time. We're speaking to you in Atlanta. If you can share your response to what happened last night. As you wrote in your article earlier this week, Trump had his legal team negotiate his booking to take place during the primetime viewing hours for the cable news networks.
Well, Trump basically wanted to surrender in the evening on Thursday because he knew that if he could turn things into a spectacle, if he could turn it into a circus, he would be able to garner as much coverage as he could, and in doing so, distract from not only the severity of the charges, because he's being hit with a racketeering charge in this case, but also from the indignity of having to go through the booking process. You know, him arriving at the jail in a motorcade at the time that he wanted was as far as the special treatment that he got went. Frankly, the moment he was in the jail, he was treated like any other criminal defendant. And I think that's really important because that was not how he has been treated in any of his other criminal cases. He had to be fingerprinted. He had his height and weight recorded, even though it appears that he came up with that figure himself. And then he had his mugshot taken. And if you look at the mugshot, I think you see two sides of Trump. You see a Trump who is trying to look defiant, and that was a face that he practiced in the lead up to the booking. But you can also see a sense of fear in his eyes and the fact that this is becoming really real. And we know from speaking to his aides and his advisors that in the days leading up to his surrender, he really felt the enormity of what was coming down the line.
Okay, you know, you get the journalists from The Guardian, like it's just milquetoast. Democracy Now! Used to be really good. I don't know what happened to them. Maybe they got paid. But I want to show you the side that mainstream media is not going to show you. They're showing you the videos and the pictures of people cheering after Trump got arrested. I want to show you a video here. This is from Simon Utaba. He is a White House reporter. The mainstream media does not want you to see this, but you must watch this. And this is not the only one I'm going to show you. These are people who actually support Donald Trump, and they don't agree with this. And guess what? They're all black. Watch this. So this is when Trump's crew is rolling in here in Fulton County.
Y'all see it, man. Which one are you in, though? Donald Trump. I'm talking about they got everybody.
You see what's happening? You guys see what's happening? Because of the way they went after him, not because they went after him, the way they went after him and going after him multiple times and the timing of it, people are looking at this as like, yo, they trying to get this guy. And I wanted to show you this because I wanted you to see it's not just white Trumpers out there saying free Donald Trump. I'm willing to bet none of these people standing out there actually even voted for Donald Trump, but they might vote for him now. Let me let it finish.
Look at that fucked up.
So that's just one of them, right? This is what I was telling you about him possibly becoming a martyr. And then here's another one. This gentleman, he's kind of funny the way he says it, but this is something people need to think about. Listen to this.
I don't mean no harm, and I don't give a damn who this offends. But if that nigga Trump get convicted of this crime and he can still run for president, I'm voting for his ass. I'm voting for that nigga. I'm voting for him. If that nigga gets convicted and he can still run for president just to see what the fuck he do, because that nigga funny now, Trump is funny as hell, I'm voting for him. I'm telling you right now, okay? So just miss me with it. Make America great again.
You see what's happening? See, this is exactly what I warned people would happen if they continue doing this. And not saying, again, this is not to say that he should not be held accountable. It was the way they went about doing it. Oh, let's hit him with this indictment. Oh, that might not be enough. Let's come with a second. Let's come with a third. Let's come with a fourth. And now people are like, oh no, they really trying to take this guy to task. They really trying to hold him down. Now people, including some black people who probably didn't even feel Trump like that, now they starting to feel differently. There's another one I want to show you as well, but first I'm going to bring up this response from Marjorie Taylor Greene, which again, Georgia is her state.
Trump is funny as hell. I'm voting for him. I'm telling you right now, okay?
Sorry, guys. He was still talking. Here we go. Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is her state. I want you to hear her response in reference to this arrest.
Come on. Marjorie.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So you can pretty much just tell us what you were sharing over there really quick.
Well, this is a devastating day for America. Georgia is embarrassed and ashamed of this Fulton County DA that's abusing her office to go after and arrest the former president of the United States, which is Joe Biden's top political opponent. And I'll tell you right now, in the state of Georgia, I met with GMA last week. This is a statistic that everyone needs to understand. In the state of Georgia, a child is sold for sex. A child is sold for sex over 7,200 times every single month But here, this disgrace of an attorney, the Fulton County DA, Fonnie Willis, is abusing her power to go after and arrest Trump. She's not using her power of prosecution to go after child sex traffickers, go after gang members that are linked to the Mexican cartels. She's not doing this to go after murderers. We have the same murder rate as Chicago. This is an embarrassment.
Why are you?
First of all, I didn't know that about Fulton County. I didn't know they have the same murder rate as Chicago. I'll have to look into that. But I think the point that she's making, again, and these are not people I typically agree with on policy, but it's just the spectacle of all of this. The point that she is making is, why is, Fannie Willis, which we'll get into her in just a second, why is she spending so much time on this and not spending her time on the murder cases that are unsolved and the child trafficking cases, which, by the way, in reference to child trafficking, I don't know if you guys know this, but Atlanta, what she said about Atlanta is very true. There was a movie that came out years ago. I think when I was in high school, came out years ago. It was a made-for-TV movie about child trafficking that was happening in Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the most popular states in reference to child trafficking. It's crazy. So she's correct about that. Let's continue.
You're talking about sex trafficking. What's your source?
GEMA.
Who's GEMA?
Georgia Emergency Management Agency.
Have you had any communication?
A government agency that assists.
Marjorie, have you had any communication with the former president at all today?
Yes, of course. I'm in constant communication with him. I support President Trump. I just came from the Republican debate in Milwaukee last night, landed here this morning. The reason why I'm here is because this is my home state. I was born and raised in the state of Georgia, and I'm here as a Georgian. I'm also here as a member of Congress. We're going to be standing up against the weaponized government. We're launching an investigation into Fonnie Willis through the Judiciary Committee, and we go back into session.
Last question about Fonnie Willis. You know that she did get the approval for the trial date to be moved up. Do you have any comment on that?
My comment to Fonnie Willis is we're going to make sure that she loses her job.
What do you think she's done wrong? What did she do wrong?
This is called weaponized government.
What does that mean?
The weaponized government is she's using her office for politics.
Okay, so
she's going after Joe Biden's top political opponent.
So you don't think Trump maybe any of these?
So this is another example, and this is a question I want to ask you guys. Do you feel that this is weaponization of the government? I don't know, this is I don't know, man, but this really does set a precedent, because if this does go through and Donald Trump does go down and he is put away in prison, this really does set a precedent for future candidates, if you think about it. Let's continue. A couple more here.
In primary. No, these are fake charges. Why? He's being arrested because he uses freedom of speech. He's not allowed to say what he thinks and feels about his 2020 election. He didn't break the law. Joe Biden broke the law.
Do you have any concern?
Joe Biden
do you have any concerns that any of the other 19
over 50 years using people just like you, tens of millions? Yes, just like you. No, you probably voted for him. That's your president.
Do you have any concerns that any of the people that are indicted are going to take any deals in this case?
I don't know. Those are questions for their attorneys, but I think it's shameful. These people are having to pay for attorneys, have to defend themselves. They are having to be the victim of the weaponized government happening here in Georgia, and our state legislature needs to do something about it.
Has the former president asked you to be his running mate, or have you had any conversations with him about that?
The president will pick who he chooses for his running mate. Right now, I'm serving Georgia's 14th congressional district. Thank you.
This, guys, I'm going to go ahead and warn you. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a heads up. 2024 is going to be wild. If they prevent, I'm telling you, prepare yourself, okay? If they prevent Donald Trump from running for office, I truly believe that all hell will break loose. As my grandma would say, they would raise Cain. I really do believe this will go crazy. Look, whether you believe he's guilty, innocent or not, the thing is, it's up for the American people to decide if they want to vote for him or not. And if they prevent him from running for president, all hell is going to break loose. I will be hiding in my house. I'll stock up on green tea. I'll stock up on my spinach for my smoothies. I'll get my protein powder, and I will be nestled up in my little sleeping bag, hiding from the people, because I'm telling you, it is wild. And don't think that we don't have Trump supporters in Massachusetts, because we do. Okay. All hell would break loose.
Still endorse President Trump?
Yeah.
The president's feeling outraged. He's the victim of the weaponized government. This should not be happening. You know, the Democrat Party should be able to run on their own policies, and their policies right now are nearly $4 a gallon gasoline. Their policies right now, they've doubled food prices with inflation. Their policies right now are wide open borders where drugs, over 300 fentanyl deaths every single day in America. Here in our state, over 250% increase in fentanyl deaths. That's Fonnie Willis, everybody. That's what she's doing. She's not prosecuting these crimes.
Fonnie Willis is bringing fentanyl into the country.
Yeah, you're saying they're weaponizing the government, but he can just fight this in court if it's
Why should he? No, why should he?
Shouldn't every person have their day in court, though?
Why should he even be in court? Why? Because he said my election was stolen? Is that a crime? Hillary Clinton said the same thing. Guess what? Stacey Abrams said the same thing right here in Georgia when she ran for governor. And every single Democrat all came out and said the elections were stolen. The elections were stolen. Did anyone see?
What about Brad Raffensperger?
So this is the hypocrisy that some people are pointing to. Now, some people have said, well, it wasn't exactly the same thing, what Hillary did and what Stacey Abrams did. But I think the point that she is making is that why was it okay? Granted, they're saying Trump did more, but she's saying, why was it okay for them to say that? But it's not okay for Trump to say that. Guys, I'm telling you, you'll have to watch the rest of this. Oh, it's almost over. I'm telling you, get ready. Get ready, because this would be wild if they don't let, I'm going to say it again, if they do not let Donald Trump run for president, shit will hit the fan. And I don't think you want to be around for that. It will not be pretty.
Brad Raffensperger, he straight up said that there was no issues in our, like, our, what is Brad Raffensperger?
No, I'm sorry, we had to hire an attorney and do a FOIA request because my ex-husband was told that he voted by absentee ballot. You guys look this up. This is in the news. He was told when he showed up to vote in 2020 that he voted by absentee ballot, and he said, no, I didn't. I didn't even request one. And then he had to sign an affidavit to surrender an absentee ballot that he never voted on. And we were accused and called liars for that until we hired an attorney and we had to FOIA the information. And guess what? It turns out it was all true, exactly what he said. So there was fraud in the election, and it's a serious issue. And I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, you should care about your elections.
Have you spoken with Trump today? You've spoken with him. Do you expect to see him?
President Trump will be coming in for this shameful event, and then he'll be leaving. And I don't blame him. I'm sure he'll be ready to go.
What do you think?
Other countries are laughing at us right now because this shit is embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing. Let's just keep it real. It is embarrassing. Now, there's more, because like I told you, there are other people who are not responding to this the way that mainstream media, I think, would prefer them to respond. And again, I'm going to show you another one. Here's another one. African-American man who not feeling this. And he definitely is not feeling Fannie Willis either. And he had some things to say about her. I showed this last night, but for those of you who missed it, you might want to hear this as well.
I'm here to support President Trump. You want to know why I'm here to support President Trump? Because they done did black men like this for decades. Make up charges and put them, so I know Trump is innocent. I support Trump against this corrupt, two-tiered justice system.
You see? See what's happening? This is what I was trying. Here we go. Here we go.
That's why I'm here to show my support as a black man for Trump. And I'm wearing my shirt, Niggas for Trump 2024, and I mean that.
What do you think about the indictments?
Oh, it's a bunch of bullshit. It's going around the country. You know, Fannie Willis, she went to school with my sister. She's full of shit. She was full of shit then. So she's a puppet for the white liberal that is controlling everything. She's in front, but the white liberal back there pulling those strings, telling her what to do. That's what I think about her, making a fool of herself.
Do you think it's going to help his election?
Of course it is. It's going to elevate him all the way. I think we should make Trump king. That's how I feel. We should make him king.
Wouldn't that be like kind of like communistic?
No, that's nowhere near communist. Now we just gonna make him king, but we still got our freedoms and rights and everything. He for that. Yeah, Trump for king 2024.
That's actually my.
See what's happening? This is why I said if they were going to do it, they should have done this before he announced he was running for president. And for people say, well, how are they supposed to know? And They had plenty of time. They had plenty of time. Trump left office January 2021. They had plenty of time. Come on, guys. Come on. I'll take the super chat over there, Eric. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jennifer. Have you heard that Fannie was the DA when the Memphis chief of police started the group that murdered Tyree Nichols? There was a scandal and Fannie covered for her. I live in Memphis. People are talking. I did not know about that, but that is interesting. I know some people not really feeling Fannie that way. I do know that.